What on earth is a split sheet? Do I even need one? How do I use it? I'm going to try and answer that for you inside this video. What's happening, everyone? This is Marlon from marlonmacmedia.com. If you don't know who I am, I'm a media professional and an online entrepreneur. I do videos on this channel regarding music production and other related content. If this is what you're interested in, check out some of the other videos that I have inside this channel. Split sheets. Okay, so you've heard of them, and obviously you're checking this video out to figure out how you need to use one and why you need to use one. So if you're a musician that does recordings and you are, or you're a producer, artist that you're going into sessions with other professionals to create a song, you need to actually use split sheets. You need to know what they are and how to use them. So a split sheet essentially is a document that shows who owns the rights to a track in terms of its publishing. The publishing is basically who owns the copyrights to the track. If there are multiple people involved, they will need to be listed on this document in terms of what rights they have or what percentage of that track they own. Now, in simple terms, if say a producer and an artist goes into a session, or a producer and a songwriter goes into a session, the songwriter may also be the artist, and they are having this jam session. The producer actually has come up with the instrumental, they come up with the beat, which is basically the composition, and then the lyrics is then written by the songwriter or the artist. Then you just have two people involved. The way the rules are with publishing rights is that the producer / composer would be entitled to 50% automatically. Okay, so they would own half, so it's right down the middle of the publishing. The lyricist, or the person who writes the entire lyrics that goes along with that composition, then gets the other half. Now, if say the lyrics were written by two people and the composition was done by the producer and they weren't involved in the writing itself, but two people wrote the song, then that 50% share that would have gone to the songwriter has to be split between the two songwriters, so it's going to be 25% each. Now, it can get even more complex. If the producer and the songwriter shares the writing duties, then you might find that the producer gets their 50% for the composition plus maybe half of the lyrics. So it would be 75%, and the songwriter themselves are left with 25% because they only contributed to half of the writing, let's say. It can get a little bit more complex than that. The relevance of this document is so that you don't have any disputes going forward. So what has happened in the past is that people have gone into sessions and they're all excited to bang out a beat and bang out a song, and they're vibing together and they come up with this really amazing song. You know, they're so excited to get it released. They just put things out and no one really sat back and thought, okay, how is it going to work when it's time for money to be generated? And this is the source of problems in a lot of cases. So if you haven't put things in writing and have documented evidence of, or an agreement really, of who's done what, then when it's time to share out the revenue, people are going to be like, okay, well, I think that I should get this amount because I did this, or I think I should be entitled to this, or actually, you know, I think I did this, but then this other person said, no, I did it. You can't remember years down the line exactly what you've done. So it's always a good practice and pretty much a requirement to fill out a split sheet, because when you go to register your track with, say, BMI, PRS, whoever your PRO is, which you should have a PRO, then they're going to ask you for this percentage share. I have a free split sheet that I'm going to give out to you at the end of this video. I'll give you the details as to how you can download it. So make sure you watch the video straight through to the end so you can get this split sheet that you can use in your own sessions. You can print them off and take with you so you can get that filled out. So when do you need to fill the split sheet? It's basically right at the end of the session when everyone's still there and everything's fresh in your mind, so you don't have any lapse in memory as to who's done what. So I'll show you how to fill that out on my screen now. So here on my screen, as you can see, I've got my songwriter composer split sheet, and it's pretty straightforward with what you need to put on here. I've designed and laid it out in a way that it's easy to read, hopefully, and you can actually make sense of it without being confused. So straight away at the top, you just need to put the name of the track, the name of the song that you're working on. And you need to put the dates of the session. So if it's one day, you just put the exact date there. If the sessions go across multiple days, say you got to come back and forth to record different parts of it and do different sections, you need to just put the dates, just separate them out by commas, whatever makes sense to you. Now, if you're working with an artist who is not necessarily the songwriter, you put the artist there and you put the label, if they have a label that they're associated with, over here. Now, technically speaking, an artist, if they didn't contribute to the songwriting process, wouldn't necessarily be entitled to a share of the publishing, which would come in the form of royalties, basically. However, it's always good practice, in my opinion, to involve the artist and give them some sort of percentage, even if they didn't write anything, because let's say you, as a producer, then you create the music and you write the lyrics and you just want someone to sing the song for you because you can't sing, or it's not a song that suits your voice or whatever. So you need a specific vocalist to come in, and you decide to just hire a vocalist to come in as a session vocalist, and you pay them for that session. Technically, they're not entitled to a revenue split in terms of the publishing, because all they're doing is being paid. They're doing work for hire. So all they're doing is providing their service as a singer, and you pay them at the end of that session, and that's the end of that. Now, if they're happy with that arrangement, then, you know, that's fine. But most times, if they think about it, they're not going to just collaborate with you on a song, provide their vocals, and not want to actually capitalize on future revenue streams from that song as well. So, you know, it's all about building good relationships, and you wouldn't want to do that to someone and a song becomes a big hit. You've paid them already. They've already spent that money. They're not even, they're not thinking about that money anymore because that's long gone. But now they see you making a ton of money because the song is actually streaming, is generating new revenue. People are covering the song. You know, they should really be getting something from that as well. So it's down to you what arrangement you want to come to, but I would negotiate some kind of small percentage to give to the artist as well if they haven't contributed, because at the end of the day, they're going to be kicking themselves down the line, and they're going to look at you and think, you've pretty much done me over, haven't you? Because you knew what you were doing. You could have, if I knew this was how it was going to go, because a lot of people are naive and they don't necessarily understand how the music industry works and how the royalties and publishing works. So they might happily accept that money from you and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to come in and get paid to do this session, and they're not thinking about the future. But if they knew what they stood to gain in future, they would have probably said, you know what, don't even pay me for this. Just give me 10%, let's say, of the publishing. And they may not get some money up front, but then at least they stand a chance to make more of a long-term passive income from the publishing of that track for years and years to come. Below the artist and the label details here, you can put the name and the address as well as the phone number of the studio if it's relevant for you to do that. It's just so you can have something as a reference in case you need to backtrack and you know, get in touch with whichever recording studio it was. A lot of people do home recordings now, so it's not necessarily something that's going to be as relevant, but it's there nonetheless. This is an important bit here. Was a sample used? Now, well, especially in hip hop, there's a lot of resampling of old material that gets re-released and turned into new songs, and they become real big hits. Like Drake does this all the time, and lots of different artists does this all the time. So you need to actually make sure, number one, you get permission to use this sample. So you don't release a track without speaking to the publishing company that owns the right to or administers the right to the copyright holders, which are basically the songwriter, composer of the track. So you need to make sure you figure out whether or not a sample was used, and if that was the case, you need to then get permission and come to some arrangement of percentage wise of the publishing to share with the publishers or the copyright holders of the sample. So it depends on how much of that sample you use. It's something for you to negotiate with them, and they will need to be on this here as well. So you put in the details down here. If yes, state the names of the track, album and artist, and the sample of the sample origin. So you put their details there. Now, this is where we get straight into just putting the splits or the percentages of the publishing that each person is entitled to. So if it's quite simply, like I said, a songwriter and a producer working together, one made the composition of the music and the other made the lyrics or wrote the lyrics, then it's just a 50-50 split. So the name of the first writer, composer, their address, contact details, so email, phone number, and you then put which PRO you're affiliated with. So whether that's BMI, PRS, ASCAP. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should look up what a PRO is and how to register with one, because you should not be releasing music officially without actually having a PRO, because these are the people that are going to track how your music is used in the media and dictate how your revenue gets paid out. I had a conversation with Greg James some time back from BBC Radio 1, and one of the main things, the main issues they have with people with some of the tracks they play is that they cannot actually track down the publishers and the owners to the rights of the song or the music, because what happens is that people go into a session and they start recording something. They might not consider themselves seriously as an artist or whatever, and a track gets produced and that track moves from hands to hands and DJs get it and whoever else gets it. And next thing you know, a station like BBC Radio 1 picks it up and it's being played on, let's say, DJ Target's playlist. And how it works is that each radio station, each media outlet has to report back on the tracks that they play to the PRO. So the PRO is who really administers the right to them to play music officially. And then the revenue generated from the licensing that the PRO does out to the media companies and the venues, like if you go to a club and a DJ is playing, they also need to produce a set list, a playlist of whatever tracks they're using. And they have to get licensed to play the music in that venue. The venue itself, I think, pays the licensing fee to the PRO, who then redistributes the money to the members, who are you and me, people that register their music and get like a specific number, which is what I'm going to refer to here now, a CAE number or an IPI number. So this is unique to you and your account that you have with your PRO. So this is going to be universal. You put this on all your split sheets, and this is how they're going to easily identify you. So it's like a barcode or a fingerprint that's only associated with you. So you need to make sure that you are registered with a PRO. Here in the UK, I'm registered with PRS for music, and in America you've got BMI, ASCAP, and another one. That's the main ones there. In other countries, you'll have the equivalent of these. So you just need to seek out who your PRO is. And PRO stands for Performance Rights Organization. Now in this section here is where you'd fill in any third-party company involved with publishing. So again, if a sample was used, this is where you would put the information, you would put the publishing company that has the rights to that sample, and you put the percentage that you've agreed to pay out to them. The reason why it says company as opposed to individuals, you can have a publishing company representing you rather than you having to figure out, okay, who's using my tracks, where can I get my tracks placed, and so on and so forth. A publishing company, you can agree to have them administer your rights in return for them to take a small percentage of the publishing, or for you to pay them a fee basically based on what they do for you. So what they'll do is they'll actively look for ways in which your track or your publishing rights can be utilized in order to generate as much revenue from royalty revenue for you as possible, so that they can make money, obviously, and for you to make money as well. So that's something that you could consider. So if there is a publishing company, then you put the details there, and then you would go through them to negotiate the publishing rights and the percentage that they'd like to take off the track. Obviously, if you didn't use a sample, you leave those sections there blank. So down below here, you've got your share, as in this particular writer-composer. So you have, if you have a share in the lyrics, you put the percentage there. If you have a share in the composition, so say this is the producers section, then you would put 50% here, and then down here, obviously, you would put the other 50% on the lyrics section. And if there are more people involved, obviously, you would need to use an extended version of this sheet. So you just print more copies, attach them together, and make sure that everyone completes it, signs it, put their date of birth. It's just an easier way of differentiating or identifying who you are. And once you've done this, you need to make sure then that everyone's happy, okay, going forward. Because if there's any disputes, you want to bring that up. If there's any disagreements, you want to bring those up front at this stage before things really gets released and years pass, and then people are kind of like, oh, I wasn't happy with this. But if you're signing off on this, it means that, okay, we've got to an arrangement, we're happy with how things are, and it just makes sure that everyone is treated fairly and no one loses out. Okay, so that's all I've got for you. In order to get a copy of this absolutely free, you need to go ahead and sign up to my email list, where you'll be sent out an email with the login details to the free resources section on my website. You'll find this as well as other resources that you may find useful also in your music business. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.